The agenda is the town administrator report.
Well, I have two items. The warrant for the annual town meeting is completed and final, and all it needs is signatures from the Board of Selectmen. Do they have a copy?
Yes.
As you know, there were three items that were changed. The budget of the water department was removed from the warrant. The light department article was removed. And also in the contributions to the Worcester County retirement system, we included the sewer department, but not water and light. So it's town and sewer contributions. Water and light will make separate contributions themselves. Those are the three changes that we talked about some time ago. And I think that's it. So, secondly, I have the motions for the annual town meeting. And thanks to the chair of our advisory board, I've gotten some information over the weekend on the exact numbers for the retirement system. And also, we did get long-term debt numbers from Matt. And the other information is roughly the same. But I added numbers. Also, the sewer department budget is, the budget number is there, the $975,000. I did expand on the revolving funds motion. The town has 5 revolving funds. And one item that still will change prior to the town meeting is Article 18, transfer to the stabilization fund. I assume that there won't be a transfer. I don't have any number at this point, so that probably will be changed right prior to town meeting. And I think that's it, Mr. Chair. I think the pattern in the town is that the selectmen do not offer motions on citizens' petitions. And so, while I had written down sample motions last time, I took them out. I basically just printed the petition and printed the sponsors of petitions. And so, I think this is 99% fun.
Great.
And we can post this on the website. I'm sure that if you read the warrant, that really doesn't give you the best information. The best information comes from the motions. So we can post that so people will have a couple of weeks to look it over. Lastly, I have the warrant for the special town meeting within the annual town meeting. One question is, does the town have a pattern of taking the special after the annual or before the annual? Before, okay, so I've set this at 9 o'clock, at 9.
Okay, so that would be before we open.
Because the annual is opening at 9:30? Did we decide 9:30?
I think 10. Oh no, was it 9?
We voted on this so many times.
Yeah. I think it was
The last
9
vote
to
was
2,
9:30.
right? Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the activities going on that
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
All right. There are 2 articles for the special. One is the important one. That's the article that is required of the town by the State Department of Revenue. And that will include in the motions a list of cuts from all the operating departments to their fiscal 14 budget. I gave the so-called Plan B to Matt, and he worked on it today, and basically the numbers that you have are the, with a few tweaks, are the numbers that that you've had for a while. Those are the numbers that we're going to present in the motions here. And secondly, the sewer department has some money from various projects that are completed or never went forward, and they'd like to have those funds reverted And so there's an article here to revert funds from sewer department projects to the sewer department retained earnings account. Those are the only two articles at this point. I think that's all that there will be.
Okay, great.
So if you could sign this, obviously, a special town meeting has to be posted 14 days prior. So we have some time, but it would be good to get this signed within the 14-day deadline. You only have a 7-day deadline, obviously, for an annual town meeting posting.
Gotcha. And we can vote it as well later, also tonight.
Do we want to vote it now? Or?
We could just cross it off the list.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this time, we'll move forward with our special town meeting warrant, which reads Town of Templeton warrant for special town meeting, May 17th, 2014. To either of the constables of the Town of Templeton in said county, in the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the precincts of the Town of Templeton, County of Worcester, qualified to vote in elections and town affairs, to meet in the Narragansett Regional Middle School, 460 Baldwinville Road, Baldwinville, in said Templeton, on Saturday, May 17th, 2014, at 9 a.m., then and there to act on the following articles. Article 1, changes to the fiscal 2014 operating budget. To see if the town will vote to reduce the fiscal 2014 operating budgets of several municipal departments or take any other action relative thereto, submitted by the Board of Selectmen. Article 2, reversion of funds from sewer department projects. To see if the town will vote to transfer unspent funds from various sewer department projects to the sewer department retained earnings account or to take any other action relative thereto, submitted by the Board of Selectmen. And you are hereby directed to serve this warrant by posting attested copies thereof in each precinct, namely at the post office in Templeton, post office in East Templeton, the post office in Baldwinville, at Cody's Market in Otter River, and at the town office buildings at 4 Elm Street, Baldwinville, and at 690 Patriots Road, Templeton. And by delivering a copy to each of the precinct's clerks 14 days at least before the time of holding said meeting, and by causing notice of the same to be published once in the Gardner News, a newspaper published in said Worcester County in the city of Gardner, given under our hands this 28th day of April in the year AD 2014. Do I have a motion that we approve the warrant for the special town meeting as read?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, we'll vote. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Do you have a special copy, Holly, that you want me to sign? Or just-
Special 3 copies.
Okay. Thanks.
So we'll post all these on the town website, and also we'll post up-to-date and most recent financial information that we have. I did spend some time with town accountant again today, talk about a variety of items. He is still working to correct errors in the general ledger. He is nearly complete with reconciling cash management. There's been some question raised, I guess, recently about the proposed debt exclusion for the school. Matt is still working on coming up with a completely accurate number for what amount of money remains in the fund that was approved by the town, I believe, 4 years ago. It is approximately $300,000. The number he had last week was I think it was $297, and he wanted some extra time to verify that to make sure it's absolutely accurate. I think prior to this, we had talked about $313. So there's still some uncertainty, but we're not talking about a big difference here. The town also services that debt exclusion with a contribution of $157,000 in the current budget and next year as well. That 5-year bond will be discharged with the payment that we make in the coming year, and whenever that payment will be made, probably halfway through the year. And so that debt exclusion will then come off. And I guess there's been some discussion about including or not including the debt exclusion in the numbers that we're calculating for the tax rate. A debt exclusion and an override are different in that they impact you differently. What's being asked for by the school right now is another debt exclusion for $500,000. The way that will work is that if approved by the town, that amount of money will be bonded, but not immediately. The way the situation typically works is that we would issue a bond anticipation note so that the school would have short-term, quick money. Bonding takes time. So typically every community does it this way. You issue a bond anticipation note that gets you money short-term. And then sometime during fiscal 15, maybe at the very end, and maybe in early fiscal 16, the town would issue the bond. And because, this is complicated, because 60% is reimbursed, the amount of money that's going to be spent is around $200,000. And at some point, it might be more, and this is what we were talking about just before the meeting tonight, at some point it might be worth deciding, do you want to just pay the amount that's needed, the $200,000, out of the operating budget, rather than going out for a bond? And here's the way it might work. We're still trying to figure this out, but next year, the 157 that's used to service the last year of the debt exclusion, the original debt exclusion, becomes available in 2016. In other words, there's 157 in the budget that we're going to spend next year, but it'll be there, and the town would be able to spend it the following year, because it's already included in the tax rate. And so what was suggested, and frankly Matt and I were talking about this, and this was one of his ideas, rather than bonding, if this is approved, take the 157 in 2016 and take another whatever you need, 50 to 60,000 the following year, and cover that with cash out of the operating budget rather than issuing a bond. Because 157 is already in the budget and counted in the tax rate. So it is possible, we think right now, it's possible to move forward with this project, if the town decides to, without raising the tax rate on that. It's still debt exclusion, but you can pay it without additional money and raising the tax rate. So that's up to date as to where we are on that. But I just want to point out that there is a distinction there. I know some people have been talking about it. There's a distinction between a general override, which hits your taxes immediately in the coming year and stays on your taxes, and a debt exclusion, which is typically covered with a 5-year bond. So you don't pay it off all at once. You pay it off over 5 years, and you would pay it off just as you're paying off the current debt exclusion, an amount each year, far less than the total.
Yeah, no, I
Well, I've kind of gotten carried away on that, but I mean, I know there's some questions that are going around about what this all means, that we're just talking about an override last fall and an override in the spring. We're not we haven't said anything about how we're gonna deal with a proposed debt exclusion, and to what extent is that gonna hammer the tax rate?
I have one other question. I had called Bob because several residents have come and Mr. Dennis has asked repeatedly about this, and I wanted an explanation on. Mr. Markle has done an amazing presentation on what our tax rate would be with the overrides, not taking into consideration the 2.5%, I believe, for each override, and that would also be added to the tax rate. So since May 5th is election day and voting day, I just wanted to make sure that we explain that appropriately, since so many people are definitely asking me about that, and they're concerned that the tax rate would not be $16.20, it would be closer to $18, and that would be a far cry from what we've said, and I want to make sure that all the correct information is out there so that we can go to the polls with the right stuff.
Understand, I think we've been focusing on the impact of the overrides. The fact is that the law permits the town to increase the base property tax, both real estate and personal property, 2.5% each year. And as far as I know, that's included in the 15 budget that's proposed. The estimate of that is 41 cents on the tax rate. What I will do is, we're going to post, we'll post the warrants, the 2 warrants, the motions, and I will prepare a sheet which includes the debt exclusions that exist, the cost of 2.5% increase in the base, and what the rate will be. And it's going to be within a cent or two, but you never quite know what the rate is going to be until you know what new growth you've had in the past year, because that's part of your base again. So if you expand the base with new growth, and right now, the budget that I saw today that the advisory committee is working with doesn't project any new growth money. I'll bet there was some, and the assessors will eventually give it to us. So that'll moderate a little bit. No? None? Zero?
For new growth for this year?
Yeah, no, yeah,
For
well, yes.
14, we
Right.
had over $52,000 went on the
That was
books.
in last year's budget.
No, it was
For
a
14.
certified for
For
this
14.
year, for 14.
14.
15 you can't have it
He's talking about
because
15's new
Right.
growth.
I can't even do 15 work till 14 gets closed out
Right,
and
yes, so
approved,
they're
yeah.
they're planning on using the
Zero.
same new growth figure. The same assessed value as in 14.
The 52?
Yeah. So we'll put an update of that on the website as well, so everyone can see, and post it if you want on the blog.
Is that everything that you have? Or for the?
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Sure, and feel free to say anything else that you would like to throughout the meeting. As we move on, there is one comment that I did want to make, and I wanted to wait until after our candidates had left. But I know that we are dealing with some emotional issues tonight, so I just would request that if someone has a question or something that they would like to say, to please direct it through the chair, and please, when you can attack ideas, but please not people. And we'll try to keep it as adult and mature as we can, please. I would appreciate that very much. So the first one will not be contentious, is the approval of the minutes. We have the first approval of the minutes from April 9th, 2014. And after you've had a chance to review, I will accept a motion for their approval.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes for April 9th, 2014.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Next, we have the minutes from April 14th, 2014.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 14th, 2014.
Do I have a second?
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Not Diane? Oh, sorry, Julie,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. And then finally, we have our minutes from April 22nd, 2014.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from April 22nd, 2014.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, Julie,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. 10 minutes till 8. I'm gonna skip over the next one just until 8 o'clock. If we could skip down to the next then agenda item, which is the light and water, or excuse me, the highway department update on the chapter 90 list. If Mr. Chase, if you have that to present.
I do. Good evening.
Hello.
First, before I present that list to you, this Chapter 90 request is for the Back Bay project, Memorial Street, the $125,000 that the board previously committed to that project. I'd like to get that paperwork moving with Mass DOT so that the project's moving very quickly. They're predicting the third week in May, they'll be putting the binder course down and then raising their structures, putting in their sidewalk walls and whatnot, and then the final coat will come later. So at the board's leisure, I've already signed it, so.
Okay, and this is the previously voted on and approved.
Yes, it was
Okay.
voted $125,000 of Chapter 90 money to be used on phase
6.
6.
Okay,
I
great.
was on the phases. So what I have for the board tonight on some proposed recommendations for some Chapter 90 road projects this summer.
Thank you.
What I'm proposing is to rebuild 11 streets and roads with Chapter 90 money this construction season, starting as early as possible. I've got some extra copies if y'all don't mind maybe sharing. If you want to just pass it down, take a look at it if it's more.
Right.
How I've got them listed is in the order that I'd like to do them. And there's a reason a little bit for that is for the vendors or the contractor to come in and how he can move his equipment around. Some of the streets are close to each other. So I'll start out with number 1, and that's Lord Road. Its nickname is Club Road, goes down to the Auto River Sportsman's Club. It would be from the intersection of Willow Street to the dead end. A year ago, the highway department, we went down and we removed the asphalt down there because it was deplorable, hard to drive on, costing a fortune in coal patch to keep it patched. So we tore it up and we laid down a processed gravel base, and it's been sitting all season. So I'd like to get that in binder and top. It's heavily traveled. Currently, right now, if it gets a little rough, a little bumpy, due to the weather, rain, traffic, we're able to go down there right now and grade it and keep it smooth. When they're good about notifying us if they got a big function going on there, so gives us a little time to go down and polish the road up a little bit, keep it kind of smooth for them the best we can. Total cost of that project is around $33,000. It's right in front of you, but I'll just say it for the audience. $33,652. And it's Other than doing a little bit of grading and compacting prior to paving, it's ready for pavement. From Lord Road, I'd like to move to Otter River Road. Because they're fairly close to each other, the contractor doesn't have to truck his equipment, he can just move it up the street. And Otter River Road will be done in two different parts. I'd like to start at Depot Road intersection and go up, and I didn't get the house number, but the resident's name is Ken Level, and his wife. It's typically where the water project left off a few years ago. That portion, that lower section of Otter River Road is in pretty rough shape, and it's way overdue for rebuilding. And then I would restart the rebuilding process at the intersection of North Main and Otter River Road. Typically, that's the four corners. And go to the Route 2 bridges, about 50 feet shy of the first bridge deck. That's what we're allowed to rebuild to, because can't go any closer to the bridge than that. They have a membrane that's underneath the bridge that you can't disturb, so. And then, again, jump in the bridge and 50 feet on the other side from the bridge deck to Templeton Center. And the cost of that project would be $168,834. Also within this Otter River Road project, I included the four corners. It's in real bad shape. And around the little island right there, that's all part of it, but it makes real good sense to tie that all in at one time. So that included that whole thing. That should take care of the road problem there.
Can I just interrupt for a minute? Will that take care of the water problem?
No.
That is built up there, right?
No, it will not.
Because it's
I know, and I'll be-
awful. So if you do that part there, like, will the water still keep coming?
Yes.
No drainage, bud?
Yeah,
There's
there's
no,
something not right there.
no, there's no drainage in this. And now, if you listen to what I said a few minutes ago,
Yeah,
from four corners down to approximately this Ken Level's house, or actually there's a brook or stream there.
yeah.
That was placed in binder when the water department did a water main upgrade in that portion. I'm not looking to cap that, that's still in binder. It's still in fairly good shape until the town decides, the Board of Selectmen basically, when they want to spend the money to put the drainage in from four corners down to that brook. It was estimated at $225,000 a few years ago by Tater and Howard, who we hold a set of design plans for a drainage system there. They had estimated that at that time, when they did the cost analysis, it was going to be approximately $225,000 to install a whole drainage manhole system with catch basins on either side. That is the only thing that's going to correct the problem there. Within that project, it also included changing the culvert pipe that moves the brook from one side of the road to the other, and it was required that they wanted a box culvert. So there's a couple of, either two large pipes, or one large pipe that travels underneath the road. It's been there for many years. What the conservation wanted was they wanted a box culvert put in there. Hence why wants to cost $225,000 for this drainage project. The other piece on that particular drainage project was to get a legal easement to dump the water onto the upside stream of that pipe, which would be going down Otter River Road, be on the right-hand side. And there was a process on how that had to be done. It had to be done a certain particular way with rip-rap stone, so that when the water comes out of the pipe, the stone typically heats the water before it hits the pond, so it doesn't disturb any fish or salamanders, I guess. So it was told to me. That's how I recall it. So, again, it's $225,000. I know Mr. Dembeck was here just recently on another meeting, and he talked about that. when is he gonna get that, when's that gonna get done? So that's approximately 225. It hasn't been bid out recently to see what it would come in at, but
Can I ask a question? So if we were to go ahead and do Otter River Road, but not do this drainage project, and some miracle comes along and we get the 225 in the next fiscal year to do the drainage, is that then going to ruin what gets done on Otter River Road now?
no, it would not. Because the drainage would go in at where we're stopping with the mix.
Okay.
So if anything, there may be a 25-foot area that might have to have catch basins put in and then redone over there, but this is why I planned it this way, so that our future project for the drainage system could move forward if the board should vote it that way and send it down the road where it should go. And then after that was in, then we would top coat the last piece. We put binder in the ditch, or we may have to re-binder that whole section of road depending on how much the contractor was to disturb or tear up. Chances are, he's gonna have catch basins, a trunk line going down. There may not be nothing left to it when he's done. It may be worth grinding it up and binder and top once again. That 225 didn't include that number.
And we'll take, just a second, sorry. We'll take all questions from citizens at the end of Bud's presentation, just so we can move through and kind of get it all dealt with at once. But if sorry, did you?
Yeah, I
And then
have
Diane.
actually a couple of questions. If we looked at the proposal that you have before us, I believe, have the rules changed for Chapter 90? Do we have to spend X amount of it? We can't carry it over the way we have been from year
No.
after year?
No, to answer your question, no. We have it's a rollover account, so each year money goes into that account. Each year we can take out of that account for projects, and/or we can allow it to accumulate if we're looking to do a much larger project. A couple, 3 years down the road, we can save our money. Now, the money that I'm talking about right here is currently what's available right now. We haven't got our 2015 allotment, which is gonna be somewhere between 340 and 400,000. We don't know yet. The governor signed the bill. I haven't got any information on the amount and when it's coming, other than I know I heard that he signed it. I didn't get an official letter yet.
The other question I had is, there was that emergency road repair, pothole money.
That's,
Is that included in this?
no, it's not included in this, but, and the reason why it's not included in this particular document tonight is because it hasn't been officially approved yet.
Okay.
So the application's in, Bob took care of that, some more paperwork today had to be followed in, so that'll be another $51,000. Once that's approved, that $51,000 we'll use right away, and we can use it to pay for Otter River Road or one of the earlier streets that we're gonna do, so that we have to have it all done and complete, invoices and everything by September 30th, I believe it
Okay,
is.
right, for
So
that,
that's the plan,
just that money.
but it's not included in this because we don't officially have it yet.
All right. My other question is, if we could, just to consider doing binder and not top coat, so that we could maybe possibly do the drainage on Otter River Road and address that problem once and for all, because that has been hanging around for over 10 years.
Well, certainly has. We can do that. We can do, presenting it this way with binder and top, due to the fact that previously there was some criticism that we didn't do binder and top, we just did dense binder. But previously, we were able to pave more roads with just binder, and most of those roads, I mean, a good part of them have held up pretty darn good over the last 7 to 10 years. So it's not a bad thing. So I can move some things around, I can change some things, some numbers, so that if the board wants to do more than 11 streets, we could do more than 11 streets. If you want to include the drainage system in there, we could put it out to bid and/or do it with town forces. I mean, there's other options to look at, depends on the direction you want me to present, but.
I just wanted to bring it up for consideration, for the board's consideration.
Thank you very much. And Diane, did you?
Okay, so as a follow-up to my question, I'm concerned about how much water is there. And if you lay down, how is that gonna affect what you put down, knowing that there's not any drainage? That is a lot of water. It's consistent. My parents are the levels where you're stopping, so I'm constantly, and I travel that way to get my kids from school, and it's not a small amount. So how will that affect what you're doing if water gets underneath? And, I mean, 168,000 is a lot of money to just if you could explain that to me.
Okay, the drainage project, really, the problem that it's gonna fix is at the four corners. Four corners down to the first brook going towards your parents' house. That's what it's gonna fix. The drainage was not planned to go all the way down Otter River Road.
Right.
Just in that one short section. Hence, we're not touching that section right now. It's really, the flow of water is not gonna change in that area. What it's gonna do is improve road improvements from your parents' house down to Depot Road.
But not at the four corners.
Right,
Because
it's-
I
it's
wrote
gonna make-
restart at four corners and up to the bridge. Did
And
I
then-
write that wrong?
Right, four corners up to the bridge. Currently, right now, that particular road between Route 2 and the four corners
I agree.
is in such deplorable
Awful.
shape, the water can't get off the road. So it's inverted, potholed, bellied out.
Yeah.
So it's gonna actually take the water and it's gonna push it off to the side of the roads where it's
So
intended
it
to
won't
go.
collect maybe at the four corners?
No, it'll be
Okay,
graded
I guess
as-
that was my
No, it's-
question, to not do something then have it be
Yes.
ruined by water.
That's
is all.
correct.
Okay.
Between those other areas, it's just gonna be farmer drainage and it goes off to the
Okay.
side and into low-lying areas.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want me to continue on this?
Yeah, we can finish this up if that's.
Okay. The next road, number 3, is Lamont Street. Lamont Street, a few years ago, it's in Bonneville. It's a little side street about it's about, it's about 160 feet long. It was pretty bad. It was another road that we had to rip up what hot top was left and we left it in gravel. So it's been in gravel. The people on that street have been living with the gravel road. So I'm looking to include Lamont Street, Mount View Street, which is really bad too, 520 feet of it. And that joins a project that was done several years ago that's in fairly good shape. And Reservoir Street goes down to the wastewater treatment plant, and William Street. Those, from number 3 to number 6 would be grouped together as a, because they basically touch each other. Again, contractor can move the equipment in and out without having to relocate it by trailer. And the numbers there are probably, the 7th one I have on my wishes, on my list is Orchard Lane in East Templeton.
That one's not that bad, is it?
No, I don't think so.
For a price of $62,239. And what that would include right now, I figured it for base and binder, for binder and top rather, no drainage, no sidewalk, no nothing, as previously at another meeting I talked about. This is just replacing the footprint that's there. And these are just considerations, if I bear that in mind. The next 4 streets that you see on page 2, Winchester Street, Walnut Street, Holman Street, Harris Street, again, they're all interconnecting. And Winchester Street is the main drag that goes from Route 202, and it stops over, it's either Holman or Harris, I forget, I get the two of those mixed up. After all these years, I still do. And then Walnut, Holman and Harris Street are, they go around, they join Bridge Street, and that's how you get to Winchester Street. Those are in real bad shape too. So I put those together as a group. And then Walnut Street is completely destroyed. I mean, that's probably one of the worst streets that we have around, you know, for a residential area. So these are the projects, this is what I kind of looked at and studied. It looked like that it would be feasible to do them this way. We have enough money in our Chapter 90 to do this. That doesn't, like I say, this number here, the grand total is $553,552. Our balance right now in Chapter 90 that's available to us is $573,844. That number there does not include the $125 for Back Bay. That's already been subtracted from this. This is available, what we can use this year if we should choose. It doesn't include the 51,000 that we're gonna get for, from the state on that, on the special project that they gave to us. And it doesn't include this year's allotment, whatever that shall be. So we're looking at, we're still gonna get another 350,000, give or take, this year.
Are there any roads on this list that you would suggest not doing if we weren't going to put top on them? Or would it be okay to do binder if that was the way we went to try to conserve money so that we're able to handle the drainage problem? Are there any of these roads that should get both binder and top or not be done at all?
Well, if the board wants to do that, now again.
Just so we know, not saying that's
well,
gonna happen.
Again, remember now, providing the state doesn't stop our state aid in any way, shape, or form after May 5th, we should get our new allotment, which would be around, again, 350,000, give or take. There's enough money there to include that water project within this. If the board wants me to redo this, as far as, and not put top on any of these streets, just put binder, dense binder, and stretch it out even further, that's an option. And then we could top him at a later time.
Sorry, go ahead.
But in your opinion as a professional, does the road last longer if we do both binder and top?
Yes.
Is it a better investment of our money to do both at the same time?
Yes, if you're putting down just binder, then you should put it with top. But if you use dense binder's got more fines in it, so it's almost, it's in between a binder and a top. You know, so it's got a little bit more sealant in it to protect it. Again, we've done several streets in town, back roads, South Road, Farnsworth Road, French Road. There was a bunch of streets we did in dense binder, and they've been holding up pretty darn good. I mean, you really wouldn't know that it was just dense binder. So I've proven that it's worked. I mean, it's worked on those streets.
What is the cost difference for dense binder between just binder? If we said, nah, we don't want to do top, like there must be a cost difference between the two,
They actually,
or are they similar?
the last time we used dense binder, they charged us the binder price.
Okay.
So all dense binder has got more sand in it than stone, you know.
Okay.
I think all of these streets have water, correct?
No. No, number one, Lord Road does not have town water. Otter River does, Lamont Street does, Mount View does, Reservoir does, William Street does, Orchard Lane does, Winchester does, Walnut does, Holman, yes, they all have water, except for
Okay.
Lord Road.
Except for Lord Road. And we know we've had issues before of paving roads and then having the water mains break. I would seriously like the board to consider doing dense binder on some of the less heavily traveled roads, like Walnut Street, Winchester, Holman, and Harris are not heavily trafficked. Reservoir Street is because of the treatment plant, so there are big trucks going up and down all the time, and that road would get pounded on. So I think if we looked at it as a combination of which roads to do dense binder and which roads to do binder and top, I think we could do the drainage project with the amount of money that we have that's been set forth.
And which roads were you suggesting for, I'm sorry, Winchester, that we do only dense binder on?
All right, well, Williams, Mountain View, Lamont, Winchester, Walnut, Holman, and Harris. Until something buys American Tissue or this Temple Stewart plant, there won't be big trucks going up and down there.
Would you want to include Orchard Lane as that too, if, we don't know what's gonna happen with the CDBG grant.
Right.
Orchards, all these are, half of them are dead
Oh
end
wait,
streets.
we'll take comments at the end.
Right, I believe that would probably be a wise thing to do on Orchard Lane. The other question I had about Orchard Lane is this a big enough project? Because this is the outlier, it's in East Templeton, and the rest you have grouped together.
Let's see here, 500 ton, Orchard Lane, the reclaiming companies like to see about 5,000 square yards. Orchard Lane is, and that's a day's work, 5,000 square yards is about 1 day's work with a reclaimer. And it would be about a half a day laying the binder out, 500 tons, about a half a day's work. So it's gonna be a long half day for the reclaimer. That's the only street in East Templeton I'm proposing at this time. So, well, no matter which way we did it, Orchard Lane kind of sticks out by itself. So, you know, now if they finished on one of these other streets, perhaps they might elect to move over and do Orchard Lane or something, you know. I don't know. I haven't met with the contractor yet to see. But I propose them in this order here for the sake of mobility reasons and.
The other question I had was on the drainage. Would that have to go out to bid? Would those plans have to go out to bid?
I would like to put them out to bid to see what, because it is a fairly large project, and as far as putting in the drainage system, that's not a problem for the highway department to install. We have the plans. It's setting the box culvert. That might have to be set by a crane.
Okay.
If indeed the conservation still deems that's what we have to do. Perhaps things have changed, I don't know, but.
All set?
Yes.
If there are no other questions from the select board now, I'll move out to, yes.
Or we think, I mean, there was talk of buying some equipment out of this chapter 90 money. What happened with that?
Well, it was a capital request project, and we talked about capital requests at the last meeting and decided to table that until after the election. But I suspect if we did choose to do that, there's the new money coming in. No decision at this time.
If we don't use it, if we are able to pay for that drainage project, as Julian suggested, but by removing the top from those particular roads, then that money would be completely free when we get it to look at investment and capital purchase, the 350 or whatnot when we get it as well.
Because the fund's in desperate need.
Right, so yeah, so it's not off the table, we just were,
Okay.
yeah,
I was gonna propose that once we saw the number and.
Sure.
Depending on the outcome of what this is. We have 131 streets and roads in the town of Templeton, and we're looking to rebuild 11 this year.
right. Mr. Case?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Bud. Bud does, you know, he does a pretty good job on what he does, but I think that if you go up there and you take a look at that Four Corners, okay, somebody's gonna get killed there. Sooner or later, somebody's gonna come around the corner that doesn't know that area. I mean, I don't care, I got a truck, so I can go through 8 inches of water. But actually, I've seen times when there's been 8 inches of water over the road there. And it's right on the corner. You come around the corner, somebody's gonna end up in there, and they're really gonna get hurt. And I'm glad it's on camera, because I notified you all. So when it happens, you know it. The other thing is that I think the binder really works good. For the state, I've played that game. I played the same game Bud did. It works really good until you start coming on roads that are going to be throughways. Okay? Bud used it on the Otter River Road. It held up pretty good for the last 2 years. But if you look any place that he has a drainage problem, like over by Night Guard's house, further up the road, any place where you form a puddle on the edge of the road, the binder starts breaking up. He's just about lost the whole binder there. That roadway's all breaking apart. And that was done, Bud, 2 years ago?
No, it's done.
3 years?
I wanna say it's like maybe 5, 7 years ago.
Otter River Road. And the other thing, I don't know if Bud's aware of it, but I had quite a thing with conservation. At one time, the Conservation Department thought that that was a river. And we had a little debate on it, and I ended up taking conservation out there and showing them where the river was dry. To which meant that it's no longer considered a river stream. So that may help you, Bud, in as far as just being able to put a pipe under the road. Instead of having that big box drain there.
Yes.
It was, I'm sure that if some of the conservation people were here at the time, you have to, I don't know if you realize what's involved in it, but you have to get the conservation to come up and witness the brook not running. Well, not only was the brook not running when Erwin Hendricken and Polly Constantino came up, but the brook was dry. There wasn't even a puddle in it. And that goes on for weeks all through the summer. You do have a good flow in it in the springtime because it comes off of Route 2. A lot of it feeds off of Route 2 and comes down. But once your snow melt gets done, it dries up.
And by preserving the top on Otter River Road and Reservoir Street and some of the other more used thoroughfares, I think that we can keep them, because they're the larger investments also, keep those, get the most bang for our buck, while still being able to pay for the drainage so that we can alleviate that problem
Ken,
that we have.
What I also wanted to say is that for the people who aren't familiar with it, that water flows all the way up from, almost from the bridges, to where Bud's gonna pave, and it flows all the way down to the brook from one side, and that really raises the double with anything you're gonna put in there. It also supplies what's-his-name with his water problem. Not that I have a water problem, because I don't. Okay, I'm just being honest with you and telling you what the thing is. And then everything from Kenny Level's house, coming in the other direction, also comes away, rolls down the road by the bottom of the Gracious Heaven Circle that I do live on. Okay? And then, we'll get to that one some other time.
Impossible.
It's that deep with holes.
The water turns around and comes down through, okay? And it's, I mean, where it goes into the brook, it's only washing the road. For a matter of fact, I think Bud will tell you that he's got a barrel up there right now because the guardrails are no longer intact over there. And the road's starting to wash out and cave in on the side. So it might be a really good idea to address the water problem.
Right. No, I agree.
Okay, take care of the water problem, even if you gotta run a dirt road for a year. But get rid of the water problem first, yeah.
All the way from the bridge.
Yes.
I just had one quick question on Orchard Lane. The first one that I had gotten way back on March 24th was in his budget, the highway superintendent had said addressing the drainage issue, which would, suggestion to add one more minimum of one catch basin, $2,000. Under tonight's budget, it says miscellaneous 4,000. Can 2,000 of that be used on the drainage?
Sorry, no.
That's correct, and I kind of just modified that. Instead of putting drainage and berm and aprons, I just put miscellaneous $4,000 to include a drain, another catch basin at the end, down at the bottom. That includes the berm and driveway aprons and related work, miscellaneous.
Yes, sir.
I have a question directed to Bud, if I can go through you to him.
Sure.
As a member of the Ridgely Club, I thought that we as a town were told that there was no way in the world that you could dump water into that brook that feeds our pond. Am I being misled on that? But I'm pretty sure that the environmental people said you can't run any of that salt or silt water into that pond.
I'm not completely up on the rules and regs that you're talking about. That was pretty much handled by Tater and Howard, the engineer, who...
Well, and here again, it was several years back, so...
Right, correct, and design. However, the purpose of putting, right now, there is nothing to catch the silt along that stretch of road. It typically drains off onto the side and it makes its way...
It's all draining down there now.
It's draining down here now. The purpose of putting a drainage system in there with berm would be to confine the road water, try to trap as much sand and silt and salt. It drops into the catch basins, and then we clean it out come springtime with our equipment. So it's supposed to clean up the environment. When I talked earlier about the outfall, that's what I talked about, the riprap. The outfall pipe would go down on the side of the brook, and the riprap kind of warms the water. It's supposed to warm the water and aerate it before it hits the stream, which feeds their club, the Ridgely Club.
Were there any more? Yes.
I got a couple questions. I believe that the estimate on that drainage, that was done like 9 or 10 years ago. I believe that was, Taylor and Howard did that, so I don't know how accurate that estimate is, because I believe it was supposed to be a subdivision up on Otter River Road, and it was a And I actually believe that the water department paid for that engineering study, but that estimate for $225,000 is pretty old. Another thing I just want to ask while Mr. Chase is here, or through you, is I see you doing the street sweeping again and stuff, and I see a lot of other cities and towns, and they sweep roads with one sweeper and one six-wheel dump truck. But we have two 10-wheelers, a sidewalk sweeper, a water truck spraying water on it. I don't know how this can be cost effective, and maybe we could save some money on sleep street, and we could do more roads and more drainage, but every other city and town, even the state, they sweep the roads with one sweeper and one dump truck.
Want to address that?
Sure, I'd love to address that. Dana, you being in the business, you ought to know the answers to that, but City of Gardner, when they're sweeping, they'll still be sweeping in August and September. They'll still be sweeping their streets. We'll be done before Memorial Day. We're gonna sweep 144 miles of road, and we'll be done before Memorial Day, because the program that I set up with the trucks, the loader, and the two sweepers, the big one and the small one sweeping, we're pumping out roads like this, bang, bang, bang.
Okay, but
One truck, one sweeper. All right, let me finish. All right, so when the truck is full, and he goes off the dump down to the dump site, wastewater treatment plant, and the sweeper's full and he hasn't returned yet. Now the sweeper sits there idle. He can't go no more, his hop is full already. So he has to wait for the truck to come back. So this is a real productive thing. I've got more people on it right now, and at the same time, I've got more manpower out there. The guys are out there with the paddle brooms, they're out there with blowers, they're cleaning intersections off where sand gets up on people's, at the intersections where we have to plow it up in the wintertime. There's a lot of handwork that's involved. You can't do that if a guy's in a sweeper and a guy's in a dump truck. So I've got a good system going right now. I've been doing it for several years. We've always been cleaned up before the end of Memorial Day. Sometimes early May, depends on the weather. We don't get a lot of rain and we're washed out, we can get done a little bit earlier, but right now we've got all of Ballingall clean, we've got all of East Templeton Center clean, Templeton Center clean, we've got the outskirts of Templeton to do yet. Today the crew just finished up with what we call West Templeton here, everything down this side of Route 2, Templeton Center. We did the cemetery for Allen. We did the